Good evening, and welcome to the Macomb Park District meeting, Tuesday, March 20th, 2018. I'm Valencia Pettigrew, the Vice President of the Board of Commissioners, and John Hemingway has been detained unexpectedly, so I will be conducting the meeting tonight. Let's look at our agenda. Oh, before we start, I almost forgot. Will you take a few moments and silence your electronics? Let's open the meeting. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve.
May I have a second?
Second.
The agenda stands approved. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The agenda stands approved. Let's go to item number 3, the consideration of action on the minutes. I'd like to motion. Your motion?
I'd like to move that consolidate, that we move on action.
Approve the minutes?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The consideration of the action of the minutes stands approved. Russ will now talk to us about the bills and transfer and monthly financial statements.
Thanks, Valencia. In summary, this would be the second month of our fiscal year, and the financials are running along real close, better than what our budget has projected, so we're doing a real good job of keeping the expenses especially down. For the month of February, we ran $25,372 below the budget, and with the revenues ending above, we did very well in the positive for both the general fund. Also, we did $11,434 better than what the budget had indicated. There wasn't any major activities, and especially Ball 4 and the Lakeview classifications. Special rec basically was running pretty much a little over the budget, but there was several activities occurring in that. It was only $923. As far as police and payroll, they again both ended below the budgets that were predictions, and right now total for the year in payroll is $8,669 better than what the budget predictions are. All in all, keep doing the good job of keeping the expenses down.
Will do.
Very nice, thank you, Russ. So at this point, I think we need to take,
First, we need a motion.
we need to make a motion to approve the financial report.
I move that we approve the bills and transfers and the financial statement.
Very nice.
Second.
May I have a roll call?
Commissioner Pettigrew,
Aye.
Commissioner Ham,
Aye.
Commissioner Weiss.
Aye.
Okay, now let's move to the 4th item on our agenda, the open public presentation to commissioners.
There are none.
Seeing none, we will move to the 5th item on the agenda, which is the president's report. Dr. Hemingway is not here, so we will have to hear that report in the April meeting. Moving to agenda item number 6 is the director's report.
Thank you very much. So a lot has been going on in the last month. The weather's been getting nicer, so we've got a lot of activity going on throughout our parks. I'm starting to see people come out of the woodwork and enjoy the space, which is really wonderful to see at this point. So we did hire on, as I mentioned at our last meeting, a new superintendent of maintenance. Jeff Hoyt has officially joined our team and has a lot of wonderful visions for the park and improvements and ideas for how we can make our open spaces even higher quality for our consumers to enjoy. So very excited to have him on board, to have his vision, and to have all the skill sets that come from working at a golf course. It's something that will help us expand our services in the future. With that being said, he's beginning work on the ball fields out at Veterans Park, making sure that we have a pristine space for our youth baseball players and our softball players. I have had the opportunity to meet with representatives from each league just last week and discussing when their openings are and practices and all that. They are already underway. The youth boys traveling team started practicing in the middle of February, as long as it wasn't snowing outside. So our youth are hard at work right now, which is wonderful to see. So I believe most of the leagues will begin practices the first week of April, and then I know Little League and MCGSL's opening day is May 5th. So they both happen on the same day. We're hoping to make a big celebration out of it and have a great time celebrating the new facilities out at Veterans Park. So that'll be a lot of fun. We had a Disney trivia night in an attempt to raise some funding for the Push for Parks campaign. Our graduate intern, Jonathan Reed, had a big hand in putting that all together, as our superintendent of events is a avid Disney fan, and she wanted to participate instead of plan. So kudos to Jonathan and the people that he pulled together to put that huge success. We packed the Lakewood? Yeah, Lakewood Lodge. They donated the space, and it was packed. We almost ran out of space. Russ was able to attend with his family, and even though he put forth a good effort, he didn't win, but that's okay, Russ. We appreciate your attendance. But everybody's efforts combined and everybody's wonderful donations for the raffle prizes, we raised over $1,200 that day. So yeah, it was a really wonderful event. For other Push for Parks fundraisers, Hy-Vee has stepped up again, and they are doing a Veterans Park meat bundle. They've put together just a special package just for us. It's a $40 value. They're selling for $35. Of each bundle they sell, they will donate $10 to the lighting project. Wow. So we are so thankful for their continued generous support and belief in our program and our projects out at Veterans Park. So hopefully we'll sell a lot of meat bundles as the weather continues to get nice. So everybody head on out to Hy-Vee and buy those. In other areas of the district, we are entering into a new platform for our maintenance department. We have worked by way of Post-it notes for a very long time, and we are now implementing a new software program called Dude Solutions. It is a cloud-based maintenance ticketing platform where we not only can track maintenance needs and equipment needs, we can also track when we purchase equipment. If we do maintenance or repairs on anything, we'll have record of that. If we do upkeep on, let's say, trees in the park, and heaven forbid they happen to fall and damage somebody's vehicle, we can at least show that we've been trying to maintain the tree so that, we're not negligent for that. It does all sorts of things, so we're very excited about it, and us making our ticketing system a little bit more efficient.
Did you say that was a free app that's available or something that?
No, it's a service that we're paying for. We pay for our managers to use it, and then the application to our part-time staff who would utilize the scheduling system of it.
Okay.
That is not something extra that we pay for. So
And is that, I'm sorry, is that,
We're preparing
For multiple platforms, so not just on a computer, but they're able to do it on their smartphone or their tablet or whatever. And
Correct.
so it's very versatile.
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent, that's awesome.
And if somebody doesn't have a smartphone, if they are still prefer the way of flip phone, we can also print out all of the needs as well.
Excellent.
But in an attempt for us to be a little bit more eco-friendly, we're exploring options like this.
Fantastic.
So, and we're also excited that security will be able to use this platform as well, so that they can start doing their security checks via this software instead of doing the paper. So we won't have 250 pages of security reports. They'll all be on our network instead. So, and then we have a lot of updates happening throughout our parks, not only with what Mr. Hoyt has begun to envision, but in April we will have a gardening day with the Macomb Beautiful Association planting flower beds in both Everly and Glenwood Park. We'll be doing a total of 3 flower beds around our park district signs. And these were just kind of test runs to see, what flowers we wanted to incorporate into the beds, how it would look, what was too much, what was too little. So once we find a good balance, we will move those into our other parks so that there's a visually appealing sign that is similar in each of our parks to kind of help represent us. I think I mentioned last year that we were getting additional fitness equipment by way of another matching grant. So we are putting fitness equipment into Patton Park. That way both sides of our community have equal opportunities to the outdoor fitness equipment. I just met with a contractor last week to talk about the concrete slab that it would go on. So hopefully our residents on the Patton side of the community will have access to that mid-May at the latest. My hope. That is my hope. Weather does happen, so don't hold me to it. And then also, the Glenwood playground is set to be pulled in the next couple of weeks. Again, weather dependent. If the ground's too soft, we can't pull it without ruining the ground. So again, hopefully by the end of April, residents can enjoy a new park in Glenwood Park.
What was the date? You just said April. Do you have a specific date yet for the beautification, the starting of that?
We're looking at either the 15th or the 16th, whichever day that is a Saturday.
Okay.
But there is a Greek Life Coalition where they have
Very nice.
several hundred students who need a volunteer project.
Mhm.
So we'll send a couple of them to each sign and then a couple of them to the random parks to do trash pickup and stick pickup and all that stuff.
Excellent.
Yeah. Other than that, we're full steam ahead. Ball 4 is going to open in a couple of weeks, or at the end, I guess it's at the end of April this year. We open right after tax day. It's a big to do. We open up the facility and have everything be $1, so we're excited to have that running again. Neil and I, our superintendent of support services, are working on an all-staff orientation for the middle of April as well, so that we can start pushing professionalism and customer service and implementing a system where everybody's on the same page with the new safety requirements that OSHA's put up against us. And we're just full steam ahead, really. Lots going on.
Good.
So,
Thank you. Okay. The good news is the president has arrived. So I'm not sure, would you like to speak? Can I go back to agenda item number 5?
On the president's report,
Yes.
the good news there is that most of what would be involved in that is further down in the agenda, so
Okay.
there isn't any
Okay.
particular need for that.
Very good. At this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to the president. Thank you.
Thank you, Valencia, I appreciate you stepping
Sure.
in like that, and I apologize for having been delayed. I was told that I could be proud down at the clinic in Springfield because I was the last patient there this afternoon. And if any state trooper comes through that door, I was here the whole time.
That's right.
Okay, are we good that way? So, thank you. Then, if I'm not entirely confused, that we would be moving to the public hearing on the...
8, agenda item number 8.
We haven't done the public.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
forgive me.
Yeah.
No, it's not, no problem. So, what we have here is the public hearing on our budget and appropriation ordinance, ordinance 326, which is an ordinance adopting and making a combined annual budget and appropriations to defray all necessary expenses of the Macomb Park District and the Board of Commissioners of the Macomb Park District, McDonough County, Illinois, for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2018, and ending December 31st, 2018. The public hearing is now open. As I look at the audience, I don't see anybody here specifically to address that. So, Joe, is it permissible with nobody being here just to declare it open and then?
Yeah. Invite public comment.
Anybody want to say anything?
Less than what is stated. It's a, hold on. It is approximately $1.2 million with returning receipts.
Other questions? Then we can, I think, safely declare the public hearing on ordinance 326 closed, which will then move us to item 8, and that is consideration of possible action on ordinance 326, the budget and appropriation ordinance, the language that I just read. Yaris, is there any discussion of this? Questions? Corrections? All right, then hearing none, I would ask for a motion.
I'd like to move that we approve the appropriation ordinance number 326.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve ordinance 326. Once again, I think it's appropriate for the legalities to read the preamble in. An ordinance adopting and making a combined annual budget and appropriations to defray all necessary expenses of the Macomb Park District and the Board of Commissioners of the Macomb Park District, McDonough County, Illinois, for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2018, and ending December 31st, 2018. The motion and second having been made, the roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Ham,
Yes.
Commissioner Weiss,
Aye.
Commissioner Hemingway,
Aye.
Commissioner Pettigrew.
Aye.
Ordinance number 326 stands approved. Congratulations, you'll have some money for all those big plans you're making.
Thank you.
All right. We have in front of us ordinance 327 as well. And in the draft here, the number isn't on it, but it's the
Okay.
authority to name or rename parks, geographic features, buildings, fields, facilities, and installations. The reason for that long list of things becomes apparent in the item that follows this, which is the draft naming policy. And each of those has a specific definition associated with it. The reason for that is so that we may distinguish between them as we talk to possible donors and develop some consistency so that people understand what we're asking for. We do not need to act on this or on either of these items this evening, but I want them in front of you because I would like very much to have them in place following the April meeting. And I think that's going to become increasingly important as you go forward with some of your discussions. So I think we need to look at this and to be absolutely sure that any concerns or questions have been raised either in advance of the meeting in April or at that meeting so we can act. The reason for the ordinance is quite simply to make sure that there's no misunderstanding that it is the board's sole prerogative to perform this duty. I think this actually protects the director in some negotiations so that there's no pressure to make behind the scenes deals, under the table, whatever kinds of deal. All of it is going to have to come through us. The director could be empowered by us to conduct the negotiations, but the final approval will rest with the board.
Recommendations can come from her. We can have discussions
Absolutely.
among ourselves to see if anything should change. I think, historically speaking, I know there's a lot of naming that I would have to go back and try to figure out why it was named. And in those kind of discussions, I would like to know why something was named if we're going to rename something. If we're going to create something new that's already, hasn't been there before, I don't have a problem with that. I just have more of a concern of those that have already been.
And when we get to the policy, you'll see that there's a strong statement there that actually renamings need to be avoided unless there are specific reasons for it.
Okay.
We aren't always privileged to that history, and I think you make a good point. Some of the parks that have proper names associated with them, Deary Park, Patton Park, Downing Park, the Knolls softball complex, things. Some of those are by deed or by gift. And I think we are, I hate to say it this way, no, I don't hate to say it, I think we are sort of honor bound to respect that. I think
I
that's.
just want the public to know that that's a concern that we all share.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So that's that, the ordinance, basic sole purpose is to reserve the authority to the board, which ensures, of course, that means it's going to be done publicly.
Okay.
And if there aren't any specific questions on that, we can move to the policy. And you'll notice that in the preamble, one of the things it said is that these naming decisions are in fact serious. But we have to be careful because we are creating an image for the community and for the park district. In section 2, you get that list of definitions that I was referring to. There's a sort of hierarchy there from larger to smaller. And by the time, we talk about an entire park, and we get down to what's referred to as an installation, which is an activity area within it. And if we were building a new rec center, it could be a room.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Or something of that nature. I have to stop myself from telling a story right now, so, all right, I've stopped. General guidelines, I think A, should be called attention to publicly, that any naming or renaming is going to be consistent with community values so that it's going to stand the test of time, and we aren't going to do anything that's going to have ideological or partisan or sectarian naming, to it. We can't. And so you'll see then there's a list of things here For example, historic groups, Veterans Park represents that. And another one is place names, geographical features. The Dudley Street Skate Park sort of designates the location of it. Common or popular names, the Rocket would be one that basically should stay. There's already a plaque on that. The deed restrictions and other legal obligations, Dairy Park, Downing Park, as we mentioned it. And then people who make a major service contribution, the Nixon Playground at Veterans Park. I've tried to set up here, and I would really appreciate any feedback that you would like to offer, the procedures of it, and we don't have to name everything. During my military service, I was at a couple of bases where it seemed like every tree and shrub had a name. And I actually went into a restroom facility that was named. That was the story that I'm restraining myself from telling. Notice that Glenwood Park, Everly Park are exempt because they are not owned by us.
Yes.
Try to avoid repetitive or duplicative naming. If we've got a couple of donors interested in the same element is the generic term for all those definitions. Whoever showed up first. New elements, in talking to a number of representatives from other districts, they suggested that it's a good idea to do this as soon as you can, because that then reduces potential future squabbles, and you also create an identity early on. For years, we referred to Veterans Park as the East University Drive property, and then as soon as it had a name associated with it, it began to catch people's attention a little bit more. We would take suggestions basically from anybody on new stuff, including the members of the public. But we would require certain kinds of documentation to make sure that there wouldn't be any, problems with the name. Existing unnamed, sort of the same almost as the named. And then the renaming, and you'll notice there, Commissioner Ham, the language undertaken with great caution and indeed avoided altogether if possible. I just think that that's probably fair. And you'll notice that the policy also calls for a special majority. Just to make sure that, things stay on the upright. You'll also notice that we have some things, some procedural considerations on whom we might honor, and it is at times the practice for park districts to honor their own, but I think a sufficient time period after retirement or something. If the Baseball Hall of Fame can say we have to wait 5 years, so can we, I think. Although the posthumous award, which was the case with former President Nixon, for example. And there is a prohibition that no person from the immediate family or oneself can make the nomination. Donors, this is when we begin to get over into some of the director's current activity. And on the advice of a number of people, both locally and from other districts who've had experience with this, you see that we've set up some sort of standards. I think we could say that except where you see dollar figures, some of that could be negotiable. I was interested, I reviewed about 30 or 40 naming policies from other districts, and all of them had settled on the 51% figure. But we also want to take into account local conditions. Rockford and Naperville can do things that we can't. So that's where you see some of the dollar figures. And that's where the director's consultation with, let's just say, local supporters suggested those kinds of figures. We want to be very clear that when we're talking about what we call a field complex, which would be, for example, the youth softball or the youth baseball fields out there, there's a difference between naming the complex. I'll reach back to my youth, the Alfred E. Newman youth baseball complex. The individual fields could also be named by a different donor. In consultation with the director, we came up with a package deal that if somebody wanted to, to buy into it. I will say I am encouraged by some of the things the director is telling me. Obviously, these are sensitive. But that will give you, and I hope the public, some sense of the kind of thing we're talking about. We want to recognize our donors. We have several already that we are talking about taking action on. We hope to have more. But we also need to do it in an orderly fashion. So that overview, if you will, anything you think needs to be added, change, let me know. And I would actually prefer to know in advance of the meeting so I can prepare appropriate draft copies, indicate proposed changes and things like that, and then be prepared to take action in April if you would. Are there any questions that anybody has at the moment?
I would just like to say, based on what we have already, it's very well thought out, and I think goes above and beyond, and the detail is fantastic. So I think it's definitely on the right track.
I thank you for that. And I do think in something like this, the detail and the procedure needs to be clear. Again, we are riding on shoulders of people who have done this before. Never be the first person through the minefield.
Just on summary, was some of this, are you just kind of saying that some of this was already implemented in prior boards?
Not our board, other districts.
Other districts, but Macomb Park District has had some procedural manner in going through these measures, because there are parts in those complex that was in recent history.
I am not aware of any specific overall policy. I think those were done on a sort of a per incident.
I think and that's what I want to compliment John putting this together, because I know other districts do have these procedural manners that they can follow and be consistent in their ways of addressing these manners of which money comes into the park district. And we do want to recognize those people that are providing these community services and various spaces for use.
Yeah, when we say we want it to be People's Park District, we mean we really want it to be People's Park District, and we're prepared to recognize that, I think, at all levels, so. If there aren't any immediate questions about that, and I'll rely on Phil to, I appreciate you coming in, Curtis, because now I'm not the last person at the meeting. I like that kind of teamwork.
Anytime.
So, we would then move to the submission discussion of the visioning statement revisions. There is one that I want to make sure to call to your attention. You see it kind of highlighted down there, sort of about 2/3 of the way down. Commissioner Pettigrew, in our last meeting, our last full meeting, had mentioned beautification a number of times, and I went back and checked both this and what she had submitted, and I thought it made sense to put this in under the general heading as something that would apply to all of our parks and facilities. And the question becomes, how do you folks feel about the way this is right now? As you can remember, our next step then would be to make this available publicly, invite public comment. I would think probably at the April meeting. I mean, this is entirely our making, so, but if people wanted to submit written or oral comments to us, I think the April meeting would then be appropriate, at which point we would integrate whatever comes from the public into a final statement, and hope then to act in May, which is not that far off of our original plan, which should probably, well, we can actually pull this off. So is there anything that is missing? Something from your own vision statements that when the director and I went over them, we didn't catch or incorporate?
I was looking for zip lines. Are there any zip lines there?
I want to address that.
Is there a liability issue? I guess?
There's a little bit of a liability issue, but to appease your vision, there is playground equipment. That is a seated gravity zip line that we are now looking into to add to one of our playground units. So kids will get to zip, adults, I've seen video of them enjoying it. I will be surely testing it to make sure it's an enjoyable experience. But yeah, that is, we were able to find a substitute for an actual zip line.
Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem.
No. As a matter of fact, that particular item drew a fair amount of attention, and we did consult with Neil Armstrong, our safety person. I personally love zip lines. I've used them in a number of different settings. There are just some issues, but I think we've learned by now that the director can be pretty creative in finding things, and guess what she found? So we'll see what happens there.
I was waiting for that.
Thank you.
Well, you know, as long as we don't have them when we have to drop off into water and things like that, we'll be okay.
Well, don't give Russ ideas, come on.
That was already there.
We'll have a water balloon fight if we're there or something like that. Make up for it.
Okay. Or, as people sit on the thing that you were talking about, we can have interns throw water balloons at them. See, we can work this out, Russ.
I'm sure that's not a liability.
I don't think it would be. Nobody look at the board attorney right now. So, is there anything else that anybody wants to raise? All right, then, we don't have this down as an action item, so count on seeing it as such by April. That will give you still more time if there are elements or modifications that you want to make. And we will go from that. Notice that these are written as accomplishments. And that is part of the whole visioning notion. Whether every one of them turns out to be an accomplishment is, of course, up to the future. But what it will do is give the community an idea of the direction that the district wants to go. And then from this will begin to flow the 3 to 5-year plans, the action plans and things like that. We pass this and dump it in the lap of the director. It seems like a fair deal. At this point then, if we have no more questions over this, we have scheduled a closed session for the purpose of having the director bring you up to date on the real estate issues that we've been addressing. And so what I would like is a motion to enter closed session to discuss the purchase or lease of real property for the use of the Park District under 5 Illinois Code Statutes 120/2 parentheses 5. And if somebody would care to make that motion. A motion. We have a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
There's been a motion and a second, and we should use a roll call vote on this, please.
Commissioner Weiss?
Yes.
Commissioner Hemingway?
Aye.
Commissioner Pettigrew?
Aye.
Commissioner Ham?
Aye.
Commissioner Bortel?
Then we will move into the caucus room, and we will notify our ever attentive and supportive tech assistant when we are back and ready to go back on the air. So we will move to closed session. We have returned from the closed session, and we need now a motion to resume our open session.
I'd like to move that we move into open session.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we resume open session. Let's use a roll call vote on this as well.
Commissioner Hemingway?
Aye.
Commissioner Pettigrew?
Aye.
Commissioner Ham?
Aye.
Commissioner Bortel?
Aye.
Commissioner Weiss?
Aye.
Then we are back in open session. This was a discussion item only, so there is nothing that will immediately follow out of it. That moves us to our last agenda item, which is open commissioner presentation, discussion of future agenda items. Does anybody have anything they wish to add? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
That we adjourn.
Moved, is there a second?
I second it.
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, please?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, and we will send you off into the night. Thank you, all of you out there, and we will see you again in April.
This is Russ.